Kissy Sell Out, welcome back to the Loop Masters podcast.
Yeah, thanks, mate. It's wonderful to be here. It's very regal and it's very leather bound in here. It's wonderful. It's hot in here, though. It
is enough hot in here. Recount the story of when you photoshopped a picture of you and Peter Andre together and posted it on Facebook.
Well, I guess, you know what? I think we could, because it's such a tech setup here, we could actually point out, we could say, well, here was the time that I met Peter Andre. It's a photo of me and Peter Andre. Right. Do you know what I mean? You probably didn't realise I was that kind of man about town. I'm hanging out. I'm
just
a wheeler
chilling.
dealer. But obviously that isn't the joke, because the joke is this picture, which I found because you know. Everyone's Googling it. If you just Google Peter Andre fan photo, that is the first result. And it took me about 3 hours to Photoshop. That connoisseurs will notice the Instagram filter on it as well to make it look more realistic.
Yeah.
And I put up on it was April Fool's Day. Come on, man. I put up in capital letters as well, which is a sign of madness, isn't it? In a social media post. And I wrote, "Oh my God, I can't believe it!" Exclamation mark, exclamation mark, exclamation mark. Can't believe I've got to work with Super Daddy Peter Andre on a Deep House bassline garage record. Can't wait for you to hear it.
How many likes did it get?
Well, that's the point. I put it up, and there was a girl called Kate who worked at Sun City High, my record label, and I phoned her up and I said, "Have you know that post?" I said, "It is funny, isn't it?" And she says it's hilarious. She goes, "That's absolutely hilarious." And I said, "It's only had about 20 likes, and there's about 7 comments, and they all kind of say, 'Oh, I didn't expect that.'" and oh wow, that's cool. And then one of my cousins called Alison shared it on her personal Facebook page and wrote, "My cousin ... so proud." And I wrote, "Whoa!" And I was like, I private messaged her. I said, "What? No." I said, "It's a joke. It's obviously a joke." I said, "No, I photoshopped it." And I spoke to Kate from the label. And I said, "I think I photoshopped it too well because it's not. Do you know what I mean? I put too many hours in because he loves his kids. I just wanted to. They're not even all his kids. He loves them. He's a great role model."
The secret is to make the head slightly too big on the photoshops.
Exactly.
I found. That gives a really it just gives a nice jovial feel to it.
So then I had to write a second message, which is this, and brilliant. It's I think that speaks for itself. Life ruined. So there you go.
I'm not sure what sort of tech you're envisioning when you do the finger and that it's going to pop up.
What I'm doing the fingering. Oh my goodness.
Finger.
Oh, it's gone puerile already.
Oh, no. My apologies. You were playing me some of your new album earlier. It almost, I was going to say, has a somewhat. You can feel your personality in it.
Oh, can you still?
Yeah.
I've mentioned him a lot. I've made a lot of records with a producer called Hervé, who's a very dear friend of mine in the industry. As are you, actually.
Yeah.
I find there's not many people that in the industry we kind of nice guys really stick together and can be humble and modest about things and stuff. And I remember his compliment about my new album was that it didn't. For once, he said, "For once, it doesn't sound like a Kissy Sell Out record."
Well,
I was like, "Oh, thank you."
Well, I don't mean. What I didn't mean was that it sounded like sort of your style of production.
My Magaluf fan.
It's more like your style of I don't know, the way you are in real life. You're an excitable, animated character. Too much. There's a lot going on. He's everywhere. He's the human Tasmanian devil. What will he do next?
Exactly. Turn your back. He's in your drawers.
Yeah. Yes. He's got his fingers in the till. No, there's a lot going on in it, but it's really, it comes together as a nice, solid, coherence, banging dance record.
Oh, thank you. And I really appreciate you saying that, because I really respect you as a producer too. And I know...
it's got the meat in it.
Yeah, exactly. And I think there is a balancing line, though, where I think that... I've done records where I think it's a bit too much. I think it's a bit too busy. But the reason I originally got into doing that and it ever worked was because I do think a lot of records can be a bit... Well, it's the word sterile, isn't it? You have a thing when if you use samples that's unprocessed or something, things can sound sterile or a bit
dry,
spacious and stuff. And it's because I'm such a fan of DJing, really, and big DJ shows and listening to drum bass box sets when I was younger, and the atmosphere and stuff, that it does come from that busyness. So it's a kind of compromise, isn't it? It's like relationships.
Yeah. Oh, I also noticed that the way the tracks seem to be structured around the drop seem to, I imagine, will lend themselves well to your style of DJing. Like a lot of the tracks you have, a build up, and then you'll drop, and then like the bass line comes in, but without all the drums, and there's like a sort of I don't know, it's like an introduction to the bass line, and then like for 2 bars or something, and then all the drums come in. And I can imagine for a sort of for your quite excitable, choppy style of DJing, that worked really, really well.
Yeah,
was that deliberate?
Well, yeah, but I can see what you're saying. But actually, I think that a lot of my favourite drum bass records do that.
They
actually.
do, yeah. But it certainly suits.
Do you know what I mean?
It suits a quite a high energy pace of.
I mean, if you even
DJing.
think about like Mr. Happy as well.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I always forget. Is it Hazard and D Mines that did that one? Yeah, it is. But obviously, when it goes down, there's no beat, is there? So it's the same thing. It's the same thing. But I do see what you mean. But it's just.
But that's those. With that structure, with that like arrangement, you can get a really, really great reaction from the crowd, particularly once they know the record, because they're like, that's when you get a sing-along for something that doesn't even have any lyrics in it. Like, as soon as you drop Mr. Happy, everyone's like, da, 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 da,
yeah,
da,
right.
da, da, da. You're just literally humming along to a synth line.
Yeah, but you can also pull out the melody of a track that no one knows by doing that, I think, as well. And that's the show element of the tunes that you play in a DJ set. And I think that's why I re-edit all the tunes I play in my DJ sets, is actually for that exact reason.
Right.
Because I'm a great believer in the idea. And I think I mentioned it earlier, but like I actually had, for the first time ever, I must have done about 40 shows or something with Jaguar Skills, right? And but he wears a mask a lot and stuff. And I never actually, I remember writing this bit on Twitter. I said I feel a bit bad about this because I've done at least like 40 shows or something with Jaguar Skills, and I've never had spoken to him backstage. I've never seen his face. I don't know what his real name is. I don't like. Do you know what I mean? It's. But I had a phone conversation with him for the first time ever. Like
he's a lovely man, isn't he?
Yeah. He's absolutely lovely. And we were talking about this. We were talking about the packaging of certain tracks and the way that it's about. There's a presentation style where actually, even when I play like samples or a bit in a tune which you know. No one's more worried about whether it's cheesy or not than me, actually. And because I hate cheesy DJs. It's not what I do at all. But I do understand that you have to plop things in and out that people know, and that's all it is. But the point is, the art of DJing is making something of it. It's turning into something, and it's presenting something. And the way that you can get away with playing like the latest Hybrid Theory tune off 440 records or something that no one's heard yet, is that you understand it. Well, first of all, it's really good, right? But you know what I'll usually do is I'll make an edit of it. The first edit I'll make of it, it will only have a drop that's 16 bars, which is equivalent to about 30 seconds.
Yeah.
So the point is that you're still playing it. You are playing that tune, but the reason it works is because you don't leave it going. Like, do you know what I mean? As in, you already have the next one lined up. It's a presentation style and an editing style.
Okay. So do you edit basically everything that you have in your set?
Yeah, I know, and it does take as long as you think it does.
Yeah.
I remember I had a kind of crucial conversation once with another DJ friend of ours called Dawley.
Yeah.
Who made, and he's a very talented guy, very talented DJ as well. But he he's got a lot of tunes where they're like 122 BPM. I mean that's I've got. Barely, I think there is one Kissy Sell Out tune that's about 120 BPM. There's only one of them though, do you know what I mean? And I was talking to him about the re-editing, and I said, I really like that tune. I've actually done a re-edit of it for my sets, and he got really annoyed. It ruffled his feathers a little bit.
Right.
And he said, what? He goes, oh man, why do you always do that? And I said, what do you mean? He goes, why do you always re-edit? Why can't you just play the original? And what I did was I sat him down. I sat him down with my laptop, and I said, can I show you what I actually do to these tunes? And he goes, okay. And I said, the thing is, look, I want to play this tune by you, right? And it's about 120 BPM. My set's 135 BPM. That's 15 BPM quicker, right? If I speed up your tune, like it sounds rubbish, but like any tune would sound rubbish if you speeded it up by 15 BPM. So I have to add things to make it work. And one of the first things I'll do is that you lose the kicks a little bit. So I put a popping noise. It's literally just a popping noise. It's like like that kind of noise, but like, louder. And I put that just over the kick. So it doesn't actually affect the dynamic of the kick in the song. It just means that when it's playing, it still pops. It still pops through the tune like that.
Right, okay.
And another thing I do is that when you then speed it up, again, percussion starts to get a bit murky. So then I just add a very like slick, crisp hi-hat, which has got quite a lot of mid-range in it. And it's like, like that. Well, actually, it's not really like that. It's more like that. And the only reason I do that is because it keeps the rhythm of the tune in it.
On
Once
the
you
off,
speed
or
it up,
like,
it's in.
So it's in between the kick and the snare.
Yeah, it's in between the kick.
Yeah.
And But the point is, when I actually showed him what I was doing, he actually relaxed a bit and understood what my point was. And I think that that's so. Yeah, sure. Like I got a reputation for doing kind of bootlegs which are so worked on to the point of actually being a remix. So I've got lots of those as well. But actually, when I say re-editing every tune, quite often it's just a case of actually just doing what I just said, and also just shortening things.
Yeah.
So quite often with bassline tunes, like bass house tunes, I will have a 16. Is this too technical?
No. Be as technical as possible.
What I kind of mean is that like. What I should have said when I was talking about that Jag Skills thing is that there is this thing when like sometimes you meet DJs and they say, I like the music that you play as well, but I can't get away with playing it. And I always say, you're telling me. I say, I know I can't get away with it either. No one can. You can't get away with playing like the tracks, like a preponderance of tracks that no one's ever heard before in a kind of pioneering genre to a massive crowd of people. No one can do that. But what you can do is you can just edit the structure of things so it's more familiar. Yeah. And the classic thing you can do is you don't have any breakdowns that are longer than 8 bars.
Right.
Straight away. And now you're not depending on the patience of people to do that. Yeah. Because it's a movement in music. And then when it drops, you either have 2 drops, in which case you have it for 16 bars, and then you have an 8-bar break, and then another 16 bars, and then it's the outro straight away. Or you'll have about a maximum of 16 times 2, 32. You have 32 bars like that, which is about a minute, by the way, is what I mean. Yeah, so it's about a minute. But the point, so you're editing the time and stuff, but also adding these little just percussion hits in it as well. And also when you shorten a track like that, it might not now have that hi-hat that it actually has in the full length one. So you then replicate it and add it again. So. Yeah,
okay, that makes a lot of sense. So, and then it, I don't know if it fits together like a jigsaw puzzle, but kind of does in a way.
Well, it's a bit like if you were sticking a lot of photographs together, and you use different colour sellotape to stick them all up. Right. The point is you're using the same colour sellotape to stick them all up, and then now you've got a through line, and it's a thread, it's a design thread that keeps it going. So another thing I'll do sometimes is actually add the same snare onto several tracks in a row. Which is not, and it's not done as a kind of showing off thing. It's done for fluidity. It's done for pace in a track.
For tracks are gonna, tracks that you're gonna play in a row.
Yeah, and also and then, like for instance, I've got, and I'm a great believer in there are some tracks you shouldn't touch, right? One of them being Joy Division, Love Will Tear Us Apart. But I've got an edit of that where, if you think about it, that by Joy Division, Love Will Tear Us Apart, it only happens for 8 bars. It's only actually 8 bars of that before we start singing. So I've got a version where I've strung that out for 32 bars instead. So now it plays for longer. Yeah. And to make it mixable, I've replaced the snare. So it's just got a snare over the top of it. And the snare actually gradually fades out over the first minute. But the point is, during that crossover section, it now gels with everything else. It's got similar production motifs in it. Yeah,
that makes sense. Okay.
I mean, I often wonder, is that too geeky? But that is basically, that's the stuff that, to me, that's like the complex bit of DJing for me. Like I always think when I go around and go to places like BPM and stuff, and people ask you questions about DJ, and I always, like, it's funny because DJing for me isn't beat matching and stuff like that. That's like using a hammer to hit a nail, and of course you've got to have a hammer. Like it's not. But like the technical bit of it is the idea of nuance and.
Well, yeah, and also now, I mean, I know people are like, well, yeah, I mean, I can DJ without the BPM meters, but I don't see anybody covering them up. Like they're there. Like you're not gonna like, oh, I'm just not gonna look at it. I'm gonna look a different direction and then do the beat matching and look back and oh yes, look, I have got it right. No, you can just move the pitch and just like until the things match up. So it's like that side of it has disappeared really in sort of in terms of requirements. So there's a whole lot of room has opened up for other expression and other ability to areas to be creative. But
you can choose any area and section of the music to get a style from. And one of the most honestly, there's a quote I found in a Mix Mag once, and it was an interview with Fiat's House Cat, and I thought it was honestly quite an inspiring DJ quote because it said this, right? It said, if you come and see me DJ, Fiat's House Cat, if you come and see me DJ, what will happen is, right, there'll be a moment when I drink a bit too much mezcal, right? And for about 10 minutes, you might find that the beats go slightly out of sync and it gets a bit kind of wavy or whatever. Right. But he says, don't worry about it. He goes, that's my style. And he goes, I won't do that longer than 10 minutes because, like, I know what I'm doing. Like, do you know what I mean? I know what I'm doing. But it's about the vibe. Right. And that is my style. And the mistakes are part of the performance. And that's quite a specific example of mistakes. But that's something where, if you're going to say someone like me, DJ EZ, if we have something in common, I would say it's that. Right. I'd say that the mistakes are part of the show. Okay. That's what I would say. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
Because that's the style. Yeah. It's kind of...
Well, also...
So to obsess about sync buttons and all this kind of stuff is slightly missing the point.
So, I mean, a lot of the thing is that if you've got 4 decks going, you are on 4 decks quite a lot.
Yeah.
Like, if you've got 4 things going and it's like, you know, piloting a fighter jet or something. There's so many different things all going on, and you're getting it so close to a knife edge that sort of small mistakes and stuff are inevitable. But it sort of shows the sort of human side behind it as well. Like, yeah, you've got everything locked in, synced and stuff. It's I don't know. It's
that's exactly what I mean.
Stops the performance.
And I used to say in like my real when I used to play like real pounding electro back in the day, I used to specifically say that I loved the idea that it could actually fall apart at any moment. And sometimes it did. Yeah. But then what I would do is it became part of the performance to go, oops. Yeah. But the point was it became part of the performance because I demonstrated with the rest of my DJ set that I knew exactly what I was doing and it was all great. But there's a human side to it and that's personality and character. And I think... that's the thing I love most about music in general, really, is, and I'm a great believer in think that, you know, the genre names are important. I think they're important. I think they're important in the sense that you wouldn't, if you took your car to a garage, you wouldn't expect, you know, you expect the mechanic to know the name of every part of your engine before he works on your car. And I think things like genre names are the same. You need to know the heritage of what you're doing in order to make a contribution to the music scene and stuff. But actually, in general, to the music I just like good music. But the thing I like that makes music good to me, and I like the idea of character and vibe and personality. Yeah, no, this is something that I very much agree with you on, and I've always like really, really, you know, found myself gravitating towards, like, I don't know, maybe it's not the best produced or this and that. I think that when you can sometimes at a point get to a level of production whereby the further you go with it, the more character you strip out. Like, there is a law of diminishing returns at a point. Well, yeah, there totally is. And I think that what's funny is that we're here talking about dance music and stuff, but I can tell you from make it, you know, because, you know, my new album's coming out, which is actually technically my 6th album, but it's kind of, I'm doing it as KSO, so it's kind of like a debut album as KSO. But having made that many albums and worked with so many different people, I can tell you that even in like the rock music scene and stuff like that, that's what they're talking about when they say these things which otherwise would sound pretentious about recording the vocals in a cupboard or something. What they're talking about is they're talking about the vibe. They're saying because you can't, the way that sounds, you can't make something sound like that. It just happens naturally. Do you know what I mean? And that's part of the record. So yeah, you're right. If you over process stuff, it kind of yeah, I mean, that's the case when sometimes you do something sometimes as a producer and then you then spend another 3 hours fiddling with it and you go back to what you originally want and it actually doesn't sound as good as the previous one. And that's because it adds a vibe to it that you could hear that the microphone was leaking a bit and there's a slight echo from something, you know what I mean? Yeah, it's those little ghosts in the machine that sometimes, I don't know, sometimes can make a tune. Yeah. Yeah. When you open up, what are you using now? Are you on Ableton? This again. Oh yeah, I am. Yeah, because you started on FL Studio also, didn't you? Yeah, no, I did. Yeah. Which I used to be embarrassed about talking about until I realised that everybody used FL Studio. No, seriously, everybody did. Like, as in, I could actually just rip them all off. I could rip a few names up. No, as in, so when I first came through the electro scene, basically, I remember there was a producer called Boy 8-Bit, and he used FL Studio. Yeah. And he said it first, and when he said it, I was like, "Oh, that's actually what I use," but I'm a bit embarrassed because obviously I was just like a 20-year-old in my mum's house, and I was embarrassed about not doing things the right way. But then he said, "Well, I think that until he'd met Justice or something, and it turned out they did it on FL Studio." And then I remember going for a beer with Diplo back in the day, and he used FL Studio, and then it turned out Scream used FL Studio, and that's, most people do. It's kind of like it's quite a testament to FL Studio, really. Oh yeah. No, definitely. So, and it was £99.
Yeah.
Which, when you think about it, it kind of means
unlimited
a lot,
free upgrades as well. Like they're never going to charge for an upgrade.
Yeah, I think that's good. Good synths as well. So yeah, but I'm an Ableton man now because I think that, as I said, from making lots of albums and stuff and doing different types of music and stuff, I think Pro Tools is a horrible piece of kit, but there is one advantage, which is that you can actually, as opposed to FL Studio, you can actually see the waveforms, you can see it all in front of you. And so Ableton has all that, but it also has the intuitively of the resizing, sorry, I'm not talking to the mic, of the resizing grid and stuff.
Yes.
I mean, straight away that makes it about 1,000 times easier than anything else.
So what's your general, once you open it up, what do you have a somewhat set way of getting started, or like?
I was going to show you this before we did this actually, but before we were running out of time. But oh really? Okay.
Yeah,
I wish I'd shown you now. Basically,
then I'd known and we wouldn't have to talk about it.
But something I've said a lot in the past is I say that like there's nothing more intimidating than a blank canvas.
Yeah, of course.
Is there? And actually, because we talked in the interview we did for your last podcast. I said I was talking about how actually my music career actually honestly started as a mistake. It was because I actually was at art school in central London at St Martin's, and I went to be a graphic designer, but I loved music, but I never thought I'd ever make it music. So I did a graphic design project and started a record label. And I can tell you, like a graphic design kind of pro tip thing in graphic design is you never start designing something unless you have all the bits on the page at once. And the reason why is because it's so difficult to do anything with a blank canvas, and music is no different. So I think in Ableton, if you go File New, I've already got a template file where there is the first layer is just a beat that goes on for about 20 minutes. And that's for side chaining. So it's just there all the time and it's muted. Right?
Okay, yeah.
And then I've already got a brick wall limiter with zero release in the master, with a graphic equalization metering thing. Yeah. And then there's a very light compressor just before the brick wall limiter with a volume in between, so you can turn it down so it's got the headroom. And I've got all my favourite samples are all in layers that are all muted at the top. So the point is you can just drag it down straight away.
Right.
And the point is you just do it really quickly because good ideas happen quickly. And you need to have that pace to when you're working on things. I'm a great believer in that. And I think, I think I'm a very, very good engineer and producer these days. But there's a lot of other producers out there where I really am slightly envious of how easily they can come up with like real killer simplified hooks and stuff. And that's not necessarily my thing, but then again I can get there with the pace because I work so quickly that you can still have a kind of, but you just need to know when to take breaks. And that's another reason why, apart from looking cool, that's why I smoke so much. Because it's, honestly it is mad because like if like me smoking, what it means is that I'll walk out of my studio at least once an hour, right, to go and get a bit of fresh air. But what it means is you come back and then you listen to what you're doing, and you have to do that because otherwise you get kind of like someone like record shop is, isn't it? You come back and you realise the tune you're making is rubbish.
Oh, no, tell me about it. So I've been making some drum and bass recently, and I will get 95% of the track done in 3 hours or something. It's done, and then the next week is spent trying to nail the mix down.
Yes, no, completely. Yeah.
And if you were doing it for more than 20 minutes, you completely lose perspective of what it actually sounds like, and you're probably just doing it detriment. You need to constantly refresh your ears. Yeah,
you do, and also it's good to have reference by listening to other things anyway. To check. To check the general levels with things and stuff.
The blindness comes, sort of mixed down blindness.
Yeah, exactly. And it's also, I remember when I made my first album, which is not one of my best albums. I think it's sort of like I think my first album's about a 3 out of 5 album.
Right. Okay.
I think the instrumental ones are really good.
That's your resident advisor review.
It's no, but like. Do you know what I mean? That was when I got signed to. I was only 22, and I got signed to Atlantic Records, and they basically signed me up and. Immediately started trying to change everything that I was doing, and it wasn't that I was kind of this obnoxious guy. It was like, I know best. It wasn't that. It was like I was just some kid who had this extraordinary experience of garnering like a reputation and name for myself when I was still living with my mum and still studying graphic design at St Martin's. Like I was still at university. I didn't even finish my third year yet or anything. But I was already doing remixes for like Mark Ronson and Human League and Calvin Harris and Sugar Babes and All Saints and so on. Well, I was still living with my mum, which was a mad time of my life. It really was a mad time of my life. And that's back when you used to get paid for things. So like, do you know what I mean? Do you know what I mean? And obviously as a young graphic designer, I was getting paid nothing. I think I was only minus £16 a week. And the reason why was because the fashion magazine I was working at part-time while doing my degree didn't believe me that the train ticket cost it didn't believe me it cost £116 to get my train ticket and park my car per week, right? So they only paid me £100, so that meant I lost £16 every week. But I didn't care because it was a great experience. But then one day I had this glorious experience where, should I tell the long thought? Yeah, okay. I was at this fashion magazine and it was on the same floor as another fashion magazine. And it was Grazia, actually. Right. And a girl came in, and this was my 4th issue of working on this magazine. And by that point, my job was, I was in charge of what's called front of book. And that means that's all the stuff at the front of the magazine. So that's like the contents page and it's all the opening features and stuff. And I was in charge of the layouts and also the photo shoot. Because I had to read the proofs for all the photo shoots. And it is as bad as people think it is. My job was actually to circle spots and stuff on people's faces. It really was. And then you had to send it off. It was, it really is like that. But someone from Grazia magazine came in and said, is there a graphic designer in here? And I said, yeah. And then... So she walked towards me, and as that happened, one of the higher-ups at the magazine, his ears pricked up, and he went, sorry, what's happening here? And she said, I'm from Grazia magazine, I need to know about the ad placements for front of book, which was actually what my job was for minus £16. And he said, no. He said, no, that's Tommy. He's our work experience guy. You need to come and talk to me. And what was funny about it was, it's not me showing off or anything, I'm just saying what a pivotal moment in my life it was. That morning... What they didn't know was that morning I had been offered £1,000 to do a remix of All Saints for Polydor. No, but it was a really, what a moment. And it was really funny because I knew that and I was so excited about it. And I had this kind of moment and I just thought, and that was when I became a professional musician. It was after that, basically. And it was bonkers. I can't remember how I got onto that subject.
Yeah, but if you've got Polydor wanting to pay you that much money for...
I was talking about the first album, wasn't I? I told you I'd do this. It's about, do you know what I mean? With a conversation.
Just herding the cat somewhere, get it in.
Yeah, I think I was talking about the idea that I got put with this guy... It got relations between me and Atlantic Records got so bad because they were literally trying to bully me to work with Britney Spears' writers, and it wasn't that I thought I was too good for it. It was that I didn't know what to do. I didn't know anything about songwriting.
So what did they want you to? They wanted you to do what? A more mainstream electro.
Yes, yeah, right. Essentially, because I guess all of my early remixes were. Like my Mark Ronson one, for instance. But of course, the vocal in that's from the Mark Ronson track. The rest of it was me. I mean, I'd recut it. So I guess they wanted that sort of stuff, but which was original. So they wanted, but they wanted me to come up with it. What they should have done is they should have introduced me to some great other artists who were singers and stuff. That's what they should have done. Yeah. And they should have just put us in a room with some cigarettes and some Bacardi breezers, and then it would have got done. But instead, they tried to get songwriters in to coach me on how to do it. So eventually they brought this guy called Steve Osborne in who'd done all the albums with New Order, which was, and this is the point I was really trying to make, which was it was incredible meeting someone like this who had so much experience, and he taught me this incredible amount of stuff about recordings, about the history of how all these things were made and stuff. Like he was one that told me, I mentioned Love Will Tear Us Apart by Joy Division. Yeah. And he was one that told me that the reason why the bass line is so high, right, because the bass player it's Peter Hook, isn't it? From Joy Division and New Order. I think that's what it's called, Hooky.
Yeah.
The reason the bass line in Joy Division and Love Will Tear Us Apart is in the higher octave. It wasn't a stylistic choice. It was because when they used to practice in their warehouse space, in the late 70s or whatever. Yeah. He couldn't hear his own bass. So what he did was he played it an octave higher so he could hear it.
Really?
So that's why that track sounds like that. And so this guy, Steve Osborne, who worked with New Order, he told me all these little things about music, and I just thought it was bonkers because there was a lot of things where the idea had actually come from a very practical way of doing things. And he also explained to me that a lot of hip hop music, a lot of early hip hop music, sounds the way it does, not because of it was a fluke that it sounded like that, because at the time they would have samplers, and the samplers they would use could only have something like an 8-second sample. Yeah. So what they would do is if you recorded the beat sample or whatever, if you recorded it at twice the speed, then when you slowed it down, it was now 16 seconds long.
Yep.
Do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
And so when you do that, when you speed something up and then slow it down again, it
Yeah.
had a sound. It created a type of sound, which I still use in like my new bassline records and stuff.